Now housing, which again the government is giving a lot of energy to in terms of talk, but I'm not so sure they're getting the results that are needed given the environment that we're in at the moment. So let's have a look. They've got a target officially now of 1.2 million new homes in Australia over the next 5 years. Now when they originally announced this target it was 1 million and they had to backtrack on that and lift it because everyone told them we actually build 1 million houses every 5 years anyways in Australia. So they had to lift it up and say, oh no, let's be more ambitious, 1.2. But you can see the problem we have is that the approvals are on the decline. And that's because the construction industry remains in a shambles. They can't get labour. It's hard to get materials. The costs have gone up too high. So it's going to be very, very hard for the government to hit these targets if they don't make some bigger changes sometime soon. Now what they are going to do is they're spending $1 billion towards the states to help them build additional infrastructure to release new estates, new housing areas, new development zones. So that's going to certainly help things out a lot. You know, and we're also going to see $9 billion over the next 5 years going into build state-funded social housing. They want to lift that up with about 40,000 social and affordable homes to help out the homeless and the needy and the lower income. So that's going to be great. But the problem there is that's going to be competing with the open market. And so the already is pressure trying to get your house built as an individual. If you're now competing with a government contract that will likely be more generous than yours, that's going to make it very challenging to build homes in Australia and hit that $1.2 million target. We're going to see $1 billion going towards crisis accommodation, so people that are having violence, having issues, homelessness, etc. So that's going out, and that's going out through the system. And $1.9 billion in lending to community groups to help them expand their housing base too. So again, this is a lot of pressure on the demand side. We're going to have demand for more and more building, more and things. And it will bring supply in, which is important, but is it the supply that we need? Is it the supply that's going to be quick? Is it the supply that is going to fix the housing for the general population? I'm not convinced about that. There is $90 million, and this is a very good initiative, to create another 20,000 fee-free construction places at TAFE. So that's what we do need, more workers, more labourers, more skilled staff. That's what we do need. But I think the government also needs to step back a bit, and I think they're missing their best weapon in the housing market, and that is private individuals. Australians have an obsession with owning and investing in Australian property, and when you invest in a property, you are renting it out. The problem that they've had over the last few years is that everyone has turned on landlords as if they're bad people and knocks them, and it's been harder and harder. This cost, the regulation, everything is making it bad to be a landlord, and therefore people aren't doing it. So we've lost a large source of public housing, rental housing, by not encouraging landlords in. Now last year the government finally did something. They increased the building depreciation from 2.5% to 4%. But they haven't really promoted that. No one really knows. And I don't think the negativity in the ownership concept is gone enough to start getting people excited about investing again as landlords. So the government needs to change the noise, change the rhetoric into, hey, help us fix this housing problem. And they could do things like stamp duty fixes, get rid of the duplication of stamp duty on new builds. You shouldn't be paying stamp duty and GST. There's all sorts of issues that they could, but as usual, none of those have gone because they're too big a money revenue for the state governments. One of the things I do like in this budget is they've gone to the universities and said, hey, your students are taking up houses that normal people could live in. Why don't you, as part of your deal of funding, you need to bring in your own student accommodation? And I think that's a great initiative. I welcome that one. It's how it used to be in the old days, so it'll be interesting to see how that turns around. What they're also doing is saying, hey, let's ramp up our infrastructure spending, but particularly in areas that are going to add to the housing affordability, i.e. rail transport, road transport, getting into new suburbs, opening up outlying land. So a lot of the infrastructure spend in this budget is aimed at bringing in new housing areas, new estates, new things. And there's $9.5 billion across the country going out. Here's just a quick summary from the Outlook. I won't go into any big deal, but what is interesting is there's a $120 billion pipeline of projects already. Now the only thing that worries me on this is the fact that no one seems to be checking the cost to do anything. It's getting outrageously expensive for any government to go and do something. I don't know where all that money's going. I don't know how it's been spent, and I don't know who's tracking it, but there can't be that much cement in some of these projects that they cost these billions of dollars. So someone needs to get the calculator out and check how much this should cost.